All right, so here we have our 1967 427 big block C2 Corvette. When we received it, it had damage to the front and the rear from shipping. So we started in the rear, got our bonding panels and everything put on and body worked. When we do a car, we usually strip it down to bare fiberglass, and then we do all of our roughing in and get everything scuffed. So when we get to the bodywork stage, everything is prepared and ready to be applied with fillers or epoxies or whatever it is that we're doing to do the repair with. So after we get to that stage, we start fitting everything. We fit the bumpers, we fit the doors, the hood, the grille. Overall, the whole car gets put together even before bodywork, just so we know how everything's gonna fit and to see if we have to do any bodywork to get the parts to fit better. So after we get done with that phase, we usually go into a polyester build primer. That's what we usually put over the whole thing to get a build, so when we block the car down, everything will be nice and smooth. After we get done with that, we usually will sand between 80 to 150 to 220 before we go into a urethane primer. Sometimes 320 if we're trying to make things really, really smooth. But then we go into our urethane primer. But we'll put that on there and then we'll refit everything. We'll go around and tape the whole car to make sure the lines and everything are as fine and crisp as they can be. And then we'll do a little bit of a round just so it's not too sharp or nothing chips when you rub on it or anything. We do that and then we go to a sealer. We seal the whole car depending on what color. Since this was black, we went with a G7 sealer, which is the darkest color on the color wheel chart of the variances. So we fit all of our emblems while it's on the car. When we're getting ready to do the striping and everything, we make sure all the emblems are lined up with the peaks correctly and to make sure that there's a good gap between it so it's not too big and it's not too small and it just fits perfectly. Same thing with our grille bezels. We make sure all these fit nice and all the screw holes are done proper. So when it gets to that stage, we usually go to our clear coat after and put about 4 good coats of clear over top of the whole car. Then we wet sand it down. We usually start with 800 grit, then we'll go 1,000, 1,200, 1,500, and then we get to our 2,000 by hand, and then we also do 2,000 with DA to start pre-polishing. Then we go to 3,000 for the final polish, and then we start buffing. We usually go to our wool pad, our white foam pad, a black pad, and then a blue pad that's the final buff over the whole car to make sure all the swirl marks are taken care of and that there's no spots that got overlooked and no hazy marks. Here I just wanted to show our gaps around the whole vehicle just because it's something that we take pride in and we really want to make sure that everything is nice and uniform and that all the gaps are perfect, because when you get to one of these Corvettes, a lot of the times the gaps aren't perfect. And a lot of people don't realize how much work it actually takes to get a perfect paint stick gap around your vehicle. And that when you open and close your headlights, that they just look really nice and seamless. So here too we have our door gaps. A lot of work goes into making sure that the door gaps are really nice and very uniform to the body and that everything is panel to panel. There's no highs, there's no weird looking spots, everything flows. And we also take a lot of pride in how our doors open and close, because if you have a Corvette, you know that this is kind of one of the things that is difficult to deal with. But they shut really nice and everything sounds good. So when we go to paint a vehicle, everything is put on a fixture, and we have a jack in our paint booth that we can set the car on and raise and lower the car. So the bottom of the car is just as nice as the top of the car. It also gets wet sanded just as nice as the top of the car does too. And all of our parts are on fixtures. The hood is on a fixture, the doors are on a fixture, the deck lid is on a fixture, the headlight buckets are fixtured, the grills, everything that we can put on a fixture gets put on a fixture to get painted, just to make sure that we get the back side and the front side and the edges of all of our parts to make sure that it's just really nice and got that smooth feel after the clear coat is on. So that's one thing that sets us apart, is we really take the car apart and dissect it and make sure that all of our bases are covered when it comes to painting a vehicle. After that, you usually don't have to wax poly or urethane clear coats. Just a nice Wizards polish is perfect for it. And that's usually just the overall process of what we do to get a car to look like how it is. All right, so here we have our hula hoop design. We decided to go with this design simply because it's easy to use It's just easier to get inside here and bodywork everything. Makes things very spiffy, as we will say.